The June 25th, 2024 special session of the Clarksville City Council is now called to order. Pastor Hilda Hernandez, Refuge of Love Church, was scheduled to be our chaplain of the day. She's had a death in her family. The First Lady will serve as chaplain of the day. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilperson Reynolds. First Lady, if you would, please come to the mic. And ladies and gentlemen, stand if you wish.
Gracious Lord, we are just so eternally grateful today to be able to stand in these chambers, Lord, to honor you. Father, I just pray tonight, this afternoon, Lord, for the council, every member. I pray for my husband. I pray for Lisa. I pray for Eric. And Lord, you're a God of peace, and you're a God of wisdom. You're not a God of confusion. And Lord, I pray at this moment, Lord, I submit this council meeting to you. And Father, I just pray that the council will have clarity of thought. And Father, I pray for a calm spirit for each and every one of them. And Father, I plead the blood of Jesus right now, Father, over this chamber. And Father, we honor you and we praise you and we thank you, Lord, because of your Son Jesus, that we can come and petition your throne. And Father, I just, again, we want to say thank you. In your precious name I pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please register your attendance. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
All members are present with the exception of Councilperson Smith, Councilperson Holloman, and Councilperson Allen.
All right, thank you. First item on our agenda is ordinance, item A, ordinance 98, 2023, 24, an ordinance amending the operating capital budgets for fiscal year 2023-24 and adopting the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 24-25 for CDE Light Band. I will entertain a motion and a second. Motion been made and properly seconded in favor of ordinance 98. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized on ordinance 98.
I apologize, Mayor. I had pushed my button. I was going to try to motion that we move the city general ordinance up because I feel like that's the one that's probably going to have the most discussion.
Okay.
Am I too late?
You are. We have a motion
Okay.
and a second. We'll dispose of this and I'll come to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comment or question regarding ordinance 98? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote on ordinance 98? All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain.
Ordinance 98 is adopted. Second reading. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to move up the city general ordinance 106 to the next item for discussion.
Motion been made and properly seconded in favor of moving ordinance 106 up to the next item on our agenda. Any objection to that?
Yes.
There is objection. Let's put it on the board. Are there questions first regarding this motion?
Yes.
Councilperson Reynolds, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I would just like to say that Councilperson Allen texted me and said she's on her way, caught in traffic. So I would ask that we wait and leave it in order because she is on her way.
Councilperson Redd, you're recognized.
I believe, well, I was basically going to say the same thing earlier. I heard that she was stuck in traffic at a roundabout, and because the others are much more or less controversial, I think we should take those first and take up the more controversial one last. Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Councilperson McLaughlin?
The reason for this is that I feel like that there could be amendments that could affect all the other budgets as well. And so if we take up something out of order that could be, say we pass the next budgets and there's something in the city general that could affect all of them, then we have an issue. So that's fine. You all vote your conscience, but that's what I was trying to do. Thank you for those who are here on time.
All right, Councilperson Little, you're recognized on this motion.
Yes, I would just think that if we are discussing this as a body and somebody has stated that they are on their way, then it'd be proper to take everything up in that order to allow them the opportunity to submit anything that they might have to say or do pertaining to that.
Okay, any other comment or question regarding the motion? Seeing none, hearing none, All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
5 yes, 6 no, 0 abstain.
The motion fails. We are now back on item B, ordinance 99, 2023-24, second reading, an ordinance amending the 2023-24 budget and approving the 2024-25 annual action plan and budget and authorizing the application for community development block grant and home investment partnership funds as well as other programs. I'll entertain a motion and a second. Motion been made and properly seconded in favor of ordinance 99. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Mayor, may I ask a question of the city attorney?
Sure.
Mr. Bittner, if this budget passes, the one that's in front of us now, and we have amendments in the city general that could affect the budgets that we're going to pass, are we able to amend the budget or not? Sorry.
It's okay, Mr. Bittner. Council. Okay, Ms. Matta.
So I think the one you're talking about is a general wage increase.
Correct, yes.
The city general budget, ordinance 106, rules the general wage increase for all departments. So whatever gets determined in that ordinance will impact all of the ordinances. But their budgets will have to be reduced because they will have additional expenditures budgeted in their budget that they won't have authorization to use.
Okay, so, like last week, you had helped me prepare separate amendments for each budget because that's what needed to be done. So you're saying there's a way to do that without?
I don't know the legal side of that one, but I can tell you that in that one, it will impact all of them,
Okay,
but it won't reduce their budgets. I guess that's where Mr. Bittner will need to explain how we do that.
okay, thank you. I apologize. I
It's okay.
had to push my button sooner.
It's okay.
It's my understanding that you can come back and, you could come back and amend it, on two separate readings. That's what I understand it to be. Yeah, later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment or question regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain.
Ordinance 99 passes second reading. Next ordinance, item C, ordinance 100, 2023-24, second reading. An ordinance amending the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2023-24 and adopting the operating capital budgets for fiscal year 24-25 for the Clarksville Gas and Water Department. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion made and properly seconded in favor of ordinance 100. Any comment or question? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain.
Ordinance 100 is adopted, second reading. Item D, ordinance 101, 2023-24, second reading, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2023-24 and adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 24-25 for the internal service funds. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion been made and properly seconded in favor of ordinance 101. Any comment or question regarding ordinance 101? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All members, please cast your vote. Every member, any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain.
Ordinance 101 is adopted, second reading. Next item, item E, ordinance 102, 2023-24, second reading, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 23-24 budget and establishing the operating budget and fiscal year 24-25 for the Clarksville Parking Commission and Proprietary Fund. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion been made and properly seconded in favor of ordinance 102. Any comment or question regarding ordinance 102? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain.
Ordinance 102 is adopted, second reading. Next item, item F, ordinance 105, 2023-24, second reading, an ordinance amending the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2023-24 and adopting the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 24-25 for the Clarksville Transit System. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion been made and properly seconded in favor of ordinance 105. Any comment or question? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
10 yes, 1 no, 0 abstain.
Ordinance 105 is adopted, second reading. Next item, item G, ordinance 106, 2023-24, second reading. An ordinance amending the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2023-24 and adopting the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 24-25 for the governmental funds and for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30, 2025. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion been made and properly seconded in favor of ordinance 106. I understand there are some amendments. We will go around the horn here. If you have an amendment, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll start in Ward 2. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized for an amendment.
I would like to go last. I'd like to see what the other options are first, if that's okay, Mayor.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilperson Markey, would you like to go next?
I'll go before Deanna. I just have to double check calculation real quick that I was given prior to me getting here, sorry.
He's not here yet. I don't know if he's coming or not. We make a copy. Who needs one? Councilperson Markey was next.
Yes. I'm
We're
sorry.
waiting. We're waiting
Oh.
on you.
I'm sorry. I
Oh, no,
thought
it's
that-
okay. I
Okay.
didn't want to make sure you knew we were waiting on you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
Okay.
Yeah, so, well, then I didn't get to pass my mind. Sorry. All right. All right, so it's almost the same as last week's. There was just a little bit of a change in the amounts here that I got. So I'd like to make a motion for my amendment. I will explain the difference here.
Motion been made in
For-
favor of the Markey amendment.
Yeah.
Do I hear a second? Properly seconded. You're recognized for an explanation.
Yeah, so last week, some of the numbers were inquired about for how I came to it. And it was that I had a different project on, going back to be a little bit more specific with the athletic complex, because I was told that there was additional work that was done that was not anticipated, and as they were going through it, they encountered a bit of sinkholes that was kind of eating through the funds that they currently had. So I requested that specific amount, and that's the new number that you see before you. So I took the remaining balance and just threw it into the very first line that will add to reducing the amount of debt that the city has authorized to issue, and decrease the amount for the sinkhole work for the athletic complex. The third project line, it stays the same as last week's, and I would like to add also with regards to what was also mentioned last week about potentially selling this lot, I did inquire about how that process would go and how we could go about doing it in a manner that benefits the community out there. And something that I would prefer to see would be that if we could partner with the EDC on this and have this lot marketed in particular to a grocer in the area. I'm told that because of the Vulcan being developed and the density that it's going to bring, it puts this area on pretty much. It makes it more marketable to get a grocer in place in the vicinity. And that's something that we can ask the EDC to help us do. And that's something that I think that the community will benefit as well as the taxpayers, because we won't be spending $32 million at the end of this for that. But again, it would help diminish what some departments consider a food desert in our city by doing that. I guess if anyone has questions on that.
Okay, any comment or question? Councilperson Allen, you're on the list. You're recognized
Yes.
on this amendment.
So I want to go back to what we discussed last week and I think a little bit of things got skewed on what is going to be the purpose of Frosty Morn. Because I was under the impression that initially we talked about community activities and stuff like that. But then last week I heard something about a nonprofit. So I guess for the mayor, for the sponsor, whoever, what is the sole purpose of Frosty Morn?
Well, I'll answer that. The sole purpose is to provide amenities for the Red River neighborhood community and the surrounding communities. As we know, that neighborhood is quickly becoming gentrified. If we sell this property, in addition to the development of the Vulcan property, they're getting squeezed on one side by a state university and on this side by a private development. So my intent is to develop this as a community gathering space that will have multiple uses. It will have event space. It will have a food truck court. It'll have an outdoor venue primarily for the community to use. And that's been our intent all along. Now, we also have talked to a medical and dental provider that may be interested in, or could be and will be interested once we get a little farther along in establishing a clinic based with a sliding fee scale to serve the community, not just the Red River community, but the entire community, but primarily the Red River neighborhood. So I would caution us against abandoning this project. There's a lot of community interest in seeing this building restored. There's an affinity for this building, and so I just think it would be an error to abandon this project at this point.
Okay.
Any other Councilperson Streetman? You're recognized on this amendment.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I'll say what I've said before. I think making changes would be premature on this. Also, in regard to the money listed for the Exit 8 Athletic Complex, in excess of $900,000, saying it's for sinkhole work. I'm not aware that the Parks and Recreation or Mr. Hilborn have requested this money. If they were concerned, I think they would have included that in the budget request to start with. I know it hadn't even gone to bid yet as far as some of the work that's going to be doing. That bid's going out. So right now there would be the number that could potentially be needed isn't known, and I know that there's some money already banked for in that to mitigate against sinkhole work. So, and I remember it was referenced last week about the public meeting that was held regarding the Frosty Morn facility, and that I went to that meeting and it was packed in there. There was a huge response from the community that was looking forward to seeing something be there. So I would ask at this time that we hold off on making this change. Again, reminding that things could be changed later, but at this time I think we should stay where we are in accordance with what we have been requested from our departments for their needs.
Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized on this amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. To the sponsor, Do you have an estimate of how much, if this passes, how much the needed tax increase would be reduced by?
This is,
To the sponsor.
so this unfortunately doesn't, impact the tax rate. What it does in the future though is, at least for the 3.5 mil that you see at the top there, is that it does reduce our debt that we have, because our loan maintenance is part of our operating funds in the long run, more than currently. So it won't affect us this year, but years down the line it will, kind of thing. It's what it's set up.
Okay, thank you.
Councilperson McLaughlin, anything else?
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh, okay, no.
Thank you, that concludes my report.
Okay. Councilperson Reynolds on the amendment.
Yeah, I would like to, I mean, there's been a lot of different things that have been said, and I'm not sure that I feel comfortable saying yes or no for this. We've put a lot of work and a lot of community involvement so far, and this is a lot of money. It's also a piece of property that I would not want to go back out into the world for profit building, and I'm not sure that by doing this we are protecting that. I would like to ask if we don't move forward with this, we still have the opportunity to amend the budget this year and change it. Is that correct? If we wanted to request a review of the project at the council and then a discussion of other opportunities, that's something we could do during the year, correct?
Well, Mr. Hilborn sends out to the Council of Capital Projects summary on a quarterly basis. This project's always in it, kind of giving you a status report of where it is. You're welcome to call him at any time, but our plan is to bring him back to the council to kind of review those projects one by one.
Well, I've done a lot of, I've made some calls since the last meeting to the community, and I think there's interest on both sides. People that are for this and people that say $32 million for that piece of property is a lot of money, and they would like to know more of the details, and I honestly don't have them. So I just want to be sure before I make a vote that that is a possibility that we can do at a later date.
We will. We'll have to come back if we issue debt. We'll have to come back to this council and tell you what we're going to fund and what we're going to do with the money.
I'd like to request a discussion item and have it at one of our informal meetings.
Sure. Anything else? Councilperson Red, you're recognized
Thank you,
on this
Mayor.
amendment.
Other than getting a lot of calls concerning the flooding where we had the massive rain there for a while, the most amount of calls that I've gotten in a while had to do with the Mason Rudolph Golf Course, and people really want us to, I think, put some money in there and revitalize it. But I've gotten lots of calls from constituents and from other people around the city. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilperson Allen, you're recognized.
So I'd just like to say I've gotten a lot of calls about how high our projected capital projects is getting, and $32 million is a lot. And it's, while right now we haven't spent that money and we're not even close to spending that money in the project right now, down the road, that's the taxpayers' dollars for something so concentrated. So I'm really having a hard time with this one. I just wish there was like a presentation or something that we could look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Just food for thought, if we do have an informal discussion, is that one of the setbacks from being able to have more affordable housing in our community is that the developers that do that want the land. And it may be an opportunity to consider that this would probably be a good parcel to provide land for affordable housing in a neighborhood that we have all agree is going through some gentrification. So that's just a thought for a future discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Streetman, you're recognized.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. Any objection to the question? Hearing none, seeing none. Okay, we're voting on the marquee amendment. This is the vote on the marquee amendment. All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
5 yes, 6 no, 6 yes, 6 no, 1 abstain.
Ordinance fails. We're now, Councilperson Marquis, any other amendments? No, sir. Okay, Councilperson Allen, you're recognized on your amendment.
Yes, I make a motion to reduce all expenses FY 2024 amended budget to the FY 2024 amended budget. 3 new hires for building and codes, gas and water at, not gas and water, I'm sorry. Grade wage increase of 5%, which reduces the tax rate 2 cents.
Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. You're recognized for an explanation.
So last week, when we came in and looked at the budget, I know I was unsure on how it would work when we came in here. So no one brought anything. While I still think that 86 cents is too high, this would take and put the budget back to what we amended it to for FY 24. So we amended the budget and we subtracted some monies that we didn't end up using and everything throughout the budget. So this would take and make our budget last year's budget, which should not increase our taxes, but with the 3 new hires that building and codes are need to generate $5 million worth of revenue, and without taking away the pay raise for the employees, we could get it down 2 more cents. So that is my amendment. Any questions?
That's my line. Councilperson Streetman, you're recognized.
Sorry.
Mayor, I have some definite concerns with this because obviously they bring different budgets every year. And I know during the budget meetings we had in May, all the various departments went through what their needs were, what they were asking for this year and why. And I don't want to ask every department to come up here and discuss the effect on them, but would it be possible if Ms. Matta came up and just briefly discussed the impact this could have?
Without objection, Ms. Matta.
So like I mentioned to Council Lady Allen, the concerns I have is that every year departments' needs are different. And the easiest department for me to explain is the police department because I do communicate with them a lot. And one of the things I mentioned was that in FY 24's budget, they had new hires that didn't start working until the end of January. So that means there's only in FY 24's budget, there's only 6 months of their salary in there. And for FY 25, I would have to make sure we had enough to cover them for the entire year. I didn't have time to go through that level of detail in every budget, so that's not been fixed. The other things is like the ballistic vests. They have a life and they have to be replaced after a certain amount of time, and they have a life cycle. So it could be 100 reached maturity last year and it could be 300 this year. I don't know. Same thing with his body-worn cameras. There's license renewals, and those renewals go up. So I'm concerned things like that in there. I did adjust for some of the items that I knew. For instance, legal department. The amended budget in legal was for 2 attorneys and an admin person in the office. And now he has 4 attorneys, a paralegal, and an admin. So last year's budget would not have given him enough to pay all of the people in his department. So I was able to adjust that. Legislative is all your salaries, and the mayor's budget is the mayor's salary, and those salaries are dependent on what the county mayor gets. So regardless of what goes in our budget, your salaries have to increase based on whatever the mayor's does. So I did increase some of those things, but I still have concerns with the departments being able to accomplish their goals.
Councilperson Streetman.
I have another question, just thinking about one of the departments that you didn't reference. What about information technology? I know that licensing fees can increase year over year, just like everything else does. I mean, could this potentially put us in a situation where they can't afford all the software that's necessary for them to continue their, obviously vital operations within the IT department.
Absolutely. All of our contracts have gone up in price, most of them, I should say, not all. But the cost continues to rise, and I don't know that there'll be enough. I have concerns. I can't speak to every one of them.
Okay, I still have more to say, but that ends my questions for you.
When it's your turn.
And this is being brought forward to reduce the tax rate 2 cents. I actually already calculated this because of an amendment from last week, but I can go ahead and use these numbers right now. When we're talking about 2 cents for reduction in the tax increase. Right now, with the property tax rate at the proposed rate of 88, and this is using numbers from the presentation that we were given, with the 88 cents that is being proposed and an average home at the 266,000, their increase in their annual tax was $87.25. When you reduce that by 2 cents and bring it down to 86 cents, it's going to reduce their increase in annual tax to $73.95. So you're looking at a savings to the consumer, or I'm sorry, not consumer, to the citizens of a little over $1 a month is what this 2 cents equates out to. When you're looking at a $400,000 home, the difference there, because their increase in annual tax from the certified tax rate to the 0.88 was $131. With this, you would be looking at it being, instead of it be $121 at, I'm sorry, $111.20 at the 86 cents is what the increase they would have, and that's an increase of $9.26 a month as compared to $10.93 a month. So again, we're talking about a difference of $1.60 there. And then when you're talking about somebody with a $150,000 home, it equates to an increase of $320. No, I'm sorry, not an increase. Their property tax would be $322.50. So it's an increase of, so sorry, I'm looking at my notes, $41.72. So their increase that they would be seeing would be an additional $3.47 a month as opposed to $4.10. So we're talking about 60 cents a month on the 150, and we could be jeopardizing our community and our citizens with what they need, what our city needs to be able to serve the needs of our citizen. I think that's a very costly gamble that we would be making there. I'll be voting against this amendment.
Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you. To the sponsor, so the description, it says general wage increase of 5%. So the wage increase would go together. There would not be a wage increase under your amendment.
There still would be a 5% wage increase.
How much would it be? But it says reduce all expenses, and then it talks about the 3 new hires. So that you're still including the general wage increase and the 3 new hires?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the previous speaker is in the finance world, and that didn't calculate in my head as fast. I tried to write notes, but basically what we were told was each cent of the certified tax rate is worth about $625,000. So this would be just a reduction of $1.25 million. So I wanted to pretend like I was smart. I did that on my phone. Thank you.
Councilperson Allen, you're recognized on your amendment.
So, while I understand the numbers, this actually comes out to, I understand the numbers, and I'll tell you what, when I was talking to the CFO earlier today, I explained to her that I don't want to see it go up at all, and we worked the numbers out, and she was like, well, I can get you 3 cents, but that would be cutting out something else. And I said, okay, well, and then I called up to the comptroller's office, and they kind of explained some things to me and everything like that. I don't agree with a tax increase at all. But I needed to bring something to the table to open up the discussion that at 74.88, that is supposed to be the exact same amount that we receive, that we are billed, that we bill out. Okay, while I understand we don't get all that money back, it's not 13 cent worth. So I don't know where those 13 cents are coming from. I'm just trying to chip it down as much as possible. Chip it down, chip it down, chip it down until we get to something that everybody can comfortably say, my family's not going to be out on the street. And while we can sit up here and say, oh, that's only $12, we're not looking at everything else we've raised this year. We're not looking at water bills going up in July. We're not looking at all those other things that we have raised this year. And we can't count everybody's money. We can't sit here and say, well, these $12, oh, it's only $12 for something the city. Well, if it's only $12, let them have it. That's the way I see it. $1.6 million is a drop in the bucket, just like $12 is a drop in the bucket for our constituents. And that's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Councilperson Little on the amendment.
Thank you. I guess I just wanted to agree with the last speaker. Every dollar does count for the average citizen living and working and enjoying the things that we do have in Clarksville. I think it's safe to say a lot of us sitting up here aren't on the lower end of the pay scale for family income wise. I don't know if you are or not, but I'm pretty sure we're not as bad off as some other people might be doing, and we've already hit them multiple times with increases this year, and so are we going to hit them again with more increases and affect their bottom line to take care of their family and provide the needed support they need? There's always going to be issues that come up and arise when it comes to budgeting and making sure that we have enough to take care of our growing city, but we got to make sure to also remember to take care of our growing population. That's all.
Councilperson Smith, you're recognized
Thank you, Mayor.
on the amendment.
Can we have Ms. Mata to come up for a moment?
Sure.
And just talk about,
Without objection, Ms. Matta.
talk about the house appraisal versus the 88 cent. How did we get to, what you had explained? It makes it more plain for the citizens to understand, and me as well. But, you said something about the house appraisals and what is really causing the tax to go up, not the 88 cent, but what you said about the house appraisals.
So, what I explained to Council Lady Smith was that the blue cards that everybody received in the mail, if you received them, are reappraisals from the Montgomery County Assessor's Office. And because of the growth that we're having in Clarksville, the values of our homes have increased significantly. Because of those values increasing, that's why our certified tax rate decreased, because the values.
Tax rate decreased. So we're really not going up on our taxes.
So the certified tax rate brings us exactly the same revenue that we received at $1.23 last year.
Okay.
With the higher valuations, the 7488 would bring us exactly the same revenue, which is 47 million and change. Where we came up with to raise the certified tax rate is because, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, we can't budget to receive all $47 million in this year because we never receive all of our tax funds in the first year. It usually takes up to 10 years, and sometimes we don't collect on all of them because that's why there's tax sale and properties are turned over. So we don't collect all of it. We typically budget between 96 and 97% of what we bill, we budget in a year. Then we have the problem that I had talked about with the appeals process, where all those appeals are still ongoing, and even after they're done at the county level, people can still appeal their values to the state. And by the time that ends, sometimes it's more than a year before the final appeals are done, and that reduces what we get to bill and what we get to collect. So that's an unknown, and in 2019, we lost over $1 million. It was $1.6 million that we didn't get to bill that the certified tax rate said we would get, that we did not get. So part of the calculation where I came up with the adding the 0.1312 cents, and the 0.12 is really just to make it a round number, okay? Because the 4 decimal places makes it complicated on the tax bill because the math doesn't quite work. So we looked at our budget and we knew that we needed about $8 million extra revenue to balance our budget. And the reason we needed that extra money is because we looked at every department that presented their budgets, and they presented them to the mayor and then presented them to the committees. In order to accomplish the goals, this is what they needed to accomplish their goals. We got to the point where if we were to reduce any more revenue to balance the budget, they would have to cut services. And so the hard decision was made that we needed to find a way to come up with that $8 million. And we were at the last moment, the only thing left to do was to not accept the certified tax rate. So adding 12 cents, 0.1212, gets us to almost exactly that $8 million. And then we needed 1 penny because of those appeals processes. And that is just to make sure we have enough revenue to cover our budget, because I won't know what that is until at least October or November when I'm ready to send out the tax bills. Does that clear it up?
Pretty clear. One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
So that certified tax rate from the state on the house appraisals, how much was that?
0.7488.
No, not ours, the county. How did they appraise us? What was the amount? Was it 0.25%?
Oh, every house. So the state says, depending on the classification of property, what it's assessed at. So all residential parcels are as appraised at, I think she uses market value somewhat, and then it's assessed at 25%. All residential units are assessed at 25%. Commercial are assessed at 40%.
I see.
And that's state law.
That's the state law, 25%. Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilperson Allen, you're recognized.
I have a question for you.
Ms. Meta, please.
So in the amendment, the FY 2025 proposed, those are still the original numbers that you put on here?
No.
Those are the numbers we changed. Okay.
Do you want me to explain how I got those for you?
Yes.
Okay. So, what I think you had requested was that you wanted all the departments to get their FY '24 amended budgets. So I started with that, and then you said you wanted them all to get their 5% general wage increase. So I had my people run a report to show how much money I'd need to give to each department to give the 5% general wage increase to them. So then I added that to each department. And then, and that's why it's not the same as 24, it's because of that 5%. And then I amended, like I had mentioned, I amended the legislative budget to cover the salaries. I amended the mayor's budget to cover the salaries, legal, and building and codes to add those 3 new hires. And then transit, I had to give them what they requested for capital and for operating, because those are matches with federal grants. And neighborhood and community services, actual request was less than last year, so I thought that was a little fix to help out.
So right here where we look at the net increase from operations and decrease, the $10,221, did we spend that over or under?
I'm not sure where you're looking at in the numbers.
At the end, where it says change in fund balance. It said net increase or decrease from operations.
Okay, so that is for FY '24. What that is that we had one-time expenses. We originally planned on spending $14 million for one-time expenses, and last year I had given you a list of all those one-time expenses. We didn't use all of it because we did a little better with our revenues and our expenses that we needed, so we spent the $10 million on one-time expenses.
Okay, so if we are reverting back to the 2024 budget, that leaves some money, right? That leaves some money. That leaves some wiggle room just in case we have to increase or decrease and things like that.
That doesn't impact, it impacts the 25 budget by what the remaining fund balance is. That 10 million technically doesn't. It's the ending fund balance. So under that, where you see 37,295,
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be our starting fund balance for FY 25.
Right.
So we're gonna start with that number. And then we have our revenues and our expenses that are the new numbers that you requested. And that leaves us spending 4.6 million more than revenues that we have. So we're using some fund balance still for one-time expenses. And then leaves us with $32.6 million fund balance.
So you're saying that we're decreasing it by 4 million. So
Yes.
we're starting out. Why are we starting out with 37? I'm trying to understand these dollars down at the bottom, because if we have $37 million right here, and the 4 million is a decrease, so we're going to start out with 32 million. So where is that $4 million going?
It's being spent on one-time expenses, and I have a list of what they are.
Can we have that?
You want me to email it to you, or do you want to see it now?
Do you have it on paper or
I
not?
think I have one copy on paper.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm giving Lisa a copy of, so I
Okay.
have to give you a little, but, okay. That is the transfer that we're making into the vehicle replacement fund to purchase vehicles, because we can do that. That was based on FY 25's budget that we were transferring, but it was over $5 million.
Okay. But we always end up coming, sorry, I'm not used to wearing my glasses, so I keep touching them. But we always come out spending less during the year than we actually bring in. So we do have that cushion, correct?
And I planned for that, though, with this. That's why we plan on using some of fund balance, because we're gonna have most years, we finish better than we plan. Not every year. There have been a few years where we didn't finish better than we planned. But most years we do. Somebody had said to me, well, you plan for a perfect year, but it's not always perfect. Well, we know that. So we actually put contingency reductions into departments' budgets for turnover. We have over $1 million in this budget reducing departments' budgets in FY 25, planning on there being turnover, because we know there's going to be turnover. We have the pattern to show the turnover. So we don't necessarily plan for perfect. We plan for what's reasonable. And so to plan that we're not going to use all of our budget, we already do a lot of that. This would be a little frightening to do more, because we already planned for a lot of that.
All right, thank you.
Councilperson Little, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. So, one big thing I do want to point out, over here doing some math, with the certified tax rate that we got from the comptroller and what the city had worked out compared to even just now with the 86 cents is about 15% increase in the cost of living. And in all reality, we're going to be right back here again doing a pay increase for our employees, because they're going to be upside down because the tax increase is did how much they're getting paid. So you're getting a raise, but, it's going towards something else. I just wanted to put that into perspective for everybody to hear and understand. And then not only that, on average, I think for cost of living increases on wages, at least in the U.S., on average, it was stated, I did some research, and it was around, most employers did a 3% increase from 2023 to 2024, and a lot of employers are planning a 4% increase during the 2024 year. Even if, with the city only doing, which we're going above and beyond, I congratulate you on that, Mayor, for doing above what a lot of private sectors are doing. But if a lot of people in the community are working in the private sector and they're getting that average 3 to 4%, and we're raising the cost of living in right now during this time where everybody's having it hard and every dollar does count, we're raising it much more than what they're bringing in. So be conscious of that. I understand that we have needs and that we have a lot of things we got to do, but in all reality, in order for us to keep our employees on the upside and be competitive in this wage world, we should be giving them about a 20% raise. And then on top of that, with all the increases we've already done for everything else, which is above that 5%, I think we're going to be increasing cost of living, honestly, probably around about 25% this year just for people living in Clarksville.
Yeah.
So that's what I got to say.
Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for bringing this forward. I'm all about trying to reduce the tax burden. I know that you probably put this together we didn't have a lot of time between Thursday and today. I would like to see a side-by-side comparison of where the difference is FY '24 to FY '25 before I can make a decision. I don't know what is being cut from where and how much and what it affects, and so I don't want to go into voting on this amendment not understanding where the cuts are coming from.
Councilperson McLaughlin, you have the floor.
I'm sorry. Ms. Mata, do you have that, a summary of?
Ms. Matta?
No, because I had about 2.5 hours to pull this together. So no, I don't.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you.
Councilperson Shekinah, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And to the sponsor again, this is good. It's a start. But I thought about what the councilperson for Ward 10 had mentioned earlier about the capital project, sitting down, looking at it. I think we probably can easily, as a body, easily cut 10 to 15 million from the budget if we just sit down and look at those capital projects with the intent of streamlining the overall budget. So I think that's something that we should look at doing at a later date. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilperson Zacharias, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week I had mentioned that I would have a hard time voting for a budget that would essentially make a city employee's paycheck worth less today than it was a year ago. And I feel the same way about the department's budget. I did some math also, and again, I've been cautioned against doing math in public, but it does appear that if we kept if we just rolled over the department's budgets from last year, what we're essentially doing because of a consumer price index and inflation is we're reducing the spending power, reducing their budget by 3%. So now we have departments that have the same budget that they had last year, but the dollar is worth less this year than it was last year. And the dollar doesn't buy as much as it did last year. So we're forcing our city departments to pay 2, 3, 4-year-old prices on products and services that aren't charging prices from 3, 4 years ago. And for that reason, I cannot support just rolling over last year's budget for our departments to this year. Thank you.
Councilperson Allen, your light is on, but you've spoken twice in addition to explaining your amendment. So what's the difference? Well, that's you were recognized twice. I will give you one more bite at the apple.
Okay, that's not. Okay, so while I understand that the dollar means less, what you're looking at, if you raise this tax this year, the dollar means less every year. That means we should have raised it every year. I mean, we're sitting up here saying the dollar means less this year like it's something brand new, and it's not. We would be raising taxes every year. Before we raised the water, before we raised the gas, before we raised everything else, we should have thought that we might need to raise this. But we didn't. And we are banging our citizens for no reason. For no reason. We're sitting up here causing them to spend more and more and more of their dollars. Now, when they all up and move out of here, we're going to wonder where we're going to get our tax revenue instead of keeping it even. I know we all got calls. We all got phone calls. We all got emails. We all got all these different things in these last 4 days about this tax increase. Most people didn't even understand that it was a tax increase because they figured, well, wow, my taxes are going down. No. Your house went up. So no, it's not really going down. And then after sitting down and they looked at it and explained it, they're like, wow, my taxes will go up $200 a year, $300 a year, on top of my water going up, on top of my gas going up, on top of this going up and this going up and this going up. When they end up homeless, are we gonna use our good resources, the money that they put in it, to get them out of being homeless? We haven't done it yet. And that's all I have to say. Please vote for this.
Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized on the amendment.
Yes, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsor. I have spent 40 years in government service and understand maybe not exactly the city budget, but I know we all come to the table with our wish list, and then we start cutting, and we get cutting, and then we all fight about it and get mad at each other because I didn't get my new, IV machine or whatever. But this is a $1.2 million budget cut. While we continue to raise the cost of living here from this chair and from voting, our residents are not getting a raise. They are suffering, and they are not. We have an increasing unhoused population. We talked about it last month, the issue of unhoused. Where in this budget or from this floor are we addressing those issues rather than just talking about what our city needs? We should be talking about what does our community really need, and I don't think overall this budget does that. I will be voting for this amendment, and I appreciate the work that went into it.
Councilperson Smith on the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. As I sit here and listen to what everybody has said, I've been observing and listening very well. We talk about, we raised the gas prices, the water prices, all of that, sewage. Yes, we did. You all sit here and voted in favor to raise all of that. Every one of you. I voted against it, spoke against it, and what did y'all do? Oh, yeah, we gonna do this. So how in the world are you gonna sit here and talk about this little budget being a little tax raise when you all raised the darn prices? You all sit there when I fought by myself sometimes, and it's okay. Y'all went along with Mr. Riggins. Y'all went along with everything I spoke against. So don't even tell me about this little raise for the tax for the house property. You all did it. And then you won't sit here like the citizens done it. No, we did it. I didn't. I voted against it and spoke against it. So I don't see why y'all crying. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, just so I understand, to the sponsor of the amendment, it is keeping the 3 new hires for building codes but eliminating the 10 new police officers?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other comment or question regarding this amendment? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? We're voting on the Allen amendment. Every member, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
4 yes, 9 no, 0 abstain.
Amendment fails. Councilperson Allen, do you have any other amendments? No. Councilperson McLaughlin, back to you.
All right, well, I'm recycling last week's amendment to reduce the wage increase from 5% to 3%. Make a motion for approval.
Motion been made. Do I hear a second? Second. Properly seconded. Let's get it passed around, and then you'll have the floor.
Thank you.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing on this has changed from last week. It's exactly the same, and I just want to reiterate that last year during our budget time, we passed a general wage increase, and then we came back a few months later and did a very significant increase to get the scales back up, and in some cases, people received a 9.5% increase in total. The recommendation going into the budget from the consultant was a 3% general wage increase. So when we're talking about a 5% general wage increase that's proposed in this budget, not everybody's going to get 5%. Everybody's going to get 3%, and if they're not capped at their scale, then they'll get the additional 2%. So this is the only thing I have. As I mentioned last week, I meticulously went through the budget no more or no less than 20 times, line by line. And I have to say, my first time serving on this body, this is my 14th budget. I have never seen a budget so lean. There is no fluff to cut out. There's nothing to reduce. And I hate to have to bring this forward, but this would be a 3.5 cent reduction in the overall tax rate increase. And I apologize to employees, but I couldn't vote for reducing some needed positions like law enforcement. We just passed an annexation last month where it was said in the report, we don't have enough law enforcement to cover this area, but it passed. And so even with these additional positions, we still wouldn't be covering the shortfall in law enforcement from all the annexations that we have approved in the last 14 months. So I ask that you all please consider this. It's not going to be popular, but as a previous speaker said on a previous amendment, the general public isn't getting a 5% wage increase. This would be a reduction in the budget of about 27% of the tax increase, totaling just under $2.2 million. And I don't know what else to say. I too have received concerns about the tax increase. I don't want a tax increase either. We are all taxpayers as well. It affects some people differently financially, but I honestly don't know what else to do. I feel like our departments did a great job working with the mayor and the finance department to try to get things lean. Our city attorney is actually bringing a lot of legal in-house instead of spending millions of dollars on outside legal like had been done in years past. That's another example of lean. So I don't know what else to say. I just ask that you all please consider this amendment. Thank you.
Councilperson Streetman on the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, I'll say, as I said last week, I appreciate the work you put into this. I could easily tell that last week that you had spent detailed time going over that and looking for anything that you could. But again, it's still this week, I can't support reducing this. I had those numbers because I spoke with Ms. Matta to verify, what it would be with that amendment that we had brought forward. And again, it was the 2 cents is what we were talking about. It was anywhere from 2 to 2.5 cents. So we're because you don't round or whatever, it would be 2 cents reduction and take it down to the 86. Since then, I've also talked with the chief of police, the chief of the fire department, and they've again reiterated the need for us to continue pushing that pay for their department because of the fact that, again, other areas are paying higher, and we already have police officers that, I won't say police, I guess not police officers isn't the right thing, but officers that are living in our area and working for outside agencies, whether it be THP or other police stations, that type of thing. So they're already competing with that. They need to keep moving that so that they can continue to try and close that gap, or at least maintain that gap, so that our facilities aren't being used as essentially a training ground to bring, and I'll use the police department for example, to bring an officer in. It takes a year for them to get from the point of being a new hire to an actual on their own police officer. So that's considerable money that is spent on that police officer, between the police academy, between the equipment they have to have, all of their gear that has to be customized to them, to fit them. Everything that's involved with spending for that officer, it could get close to $100,000 being spent to bring in that new officer. If we can instead retain our veteran officers, we're not, again, then spending that so that they can go off and be a police officer somewhere else. Same thing with fire. They all see how much is being paid elsewhere. And I mean, we see people commute all day on Interstate 24 to get to other areas. If people weren't commuting to Nashville, we wouldn't be continuing to ask every year to have 24 widened because of the traffic in the mornings and the afternoons. Those aren't the only departments, though, that I've talked to that are affected by it. You've also have the private sector that's competing with other departments. We have people that choose to work for us. I mean, private sector tends to pay more than what the government jobs do. But in some instances, specifically with laborers, they are choosing to work for the city. Even though they can make more money outside in the private sector, they're getting the benefits that are associated with it. They're getting the job security that they have, that it's not something where they'd be working for a while, laid off, working for a while, laid off. They've got steady employment. We want those employees to continue to stay with us, because just like there's an expense to the police department, there's also an expense to those departments to train new employees. And we're already struggling on getting drivers for transit, for them to, with the CDL licenses. We've had to, I believe, cut some routes even because of the fact that we can't bring enough in. If we stay stagnant and everybody else continues going up, that gap is going to be harder and harder to overcome. And at some point, even that with the private sector and those laborers, that gap's going to be big enough that the other benefits aren't going to be enough to retain those employees. So again, while I appreciate everything you did and trying to find the one thing that could be done on this budget, I just can't support this just for the benefit of trying to keep our employees that we have as it is. So thank you.
Councilperson Little, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you. And I also will say I appreciate the work that was done in on this. I feel the same way to where, which, I said the numbers before, and going down would definitely hurt our employees a lot more because they're going to eat it in rent and other things that are going to be assessed to them. We've all seen more apartment complex go in here than single family homes come in. And so that means a lot more people are buying up those at the price they are right now. Well, then they're going to end up eating that increase in the rent also because of top property taxes and so on for other increases. So if anything, the only thing we need to do with our employees is increase them, the surrounding area. I do know, at least for law enforcement, only because previously I worked in it, they're way ahead of us as far as pay, and we're way behind. So I feel like anything that would slow down that advancement would be detrimental to the quality candidates that we have to pull from.
Councilperson Smith on the amendment.
I'm gonna be calm this time, Mayor.
All right.
I get so burnt up when we don't think. What we do is we raise the price on everything we can to hurt the citizens, and then we want 2% decrease in supplying our employees with the money that they need. We make the wrong cuts when we ought to make sure that we're really taking care of our citizens. When we bring up these gas and prices and water increase, sewage prices, we don't think. We just, okay, we're going to go along with the big guy. But now here you are, wants to cut the rate increase, or the increase in their pay. No, I'm not doing it. Even though all of them don't deserve it. I say 99% of them do. 1% don't. But because they associate with one another, he gonna get blessed. But I think we need to start thinking. When we make decisions, we want to cry. Oh, yeah, we're gonna raise that water price. We're gonna raise that, and I tried my best to get you all to see that was the worst thing we could have done. But everybody went against Wanda. That's okay. Now, guess what? You got to face consequences. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilperson McLaughlin on your amendment.
Last comment. I will not need another bite at the apple. Okay, just a reminder. So this, if this reduction passes, it would be a drop in 3.5 cents to the suggested certified tax rate, which would be a 27% decrease in the overall suggested tax rate. And if this does not pass, I hope that somebody else has some cuts to try to get the taxes down. If you plan to vote no, I hope you have some cuts. Thank you.
Councilperson Allen, you're recognized.
Okay, to be fair, I'd like to say it's gonna take way more than $1.6 million to hire 10 new officers. So that was, exaggeration. What I wanna say about this is that I'm gonna vote for it because at the end of the day, we need to get, I'm still not understanding how 7488 was what we brought in last year. It's the same amount we brought in last year, and we need to raise it 13 cents. I'm still not getting it. I don't see it. So yeah, we are the governing body of this city. We need to be looking at where we're going to cut. If we don't want our tax rate to go up, we need to cut. And people's feelings are going to be hurt. But that's okay. We're the governing body. On every other thing, we hurt people's feelings. We're hurting our citizens' feelings right now. I think we need to all put our big girl panties on and do what we need to do. Thank you.
Councilperson Reynolds on the amendment.
Yes, Mayor, might be for Ms. Mata. I'd like to verify that at the budget last year, we raised income, we raised wages, and then we raised it again in the middle of the year, and then now we're doing it again. So could I just have a review of the rates that we raised?
Yeah, I can give you,
If you can, that's
we
fine.
had a 4.5% general wage increase in the current fiscal year budget. In December, we came back and asked for a market rate adjustment that would apply to all employees, not just those off probation and permanent full-time, of 5%. And it's not a matter of how much we give, it's where you start. And we've started behind and deferred before many of us got here, giving raises to employees. That's why we're in the hole we're in, and that's why we're having to play catch-up. And the wage inflation out there is real. When you got Robertson County paying their deputies right out of the academy, no experience, $60,000, you can see part of the problem. This is not just law enforcement. Anyway, I'm preaching. You're recognized.
So, overall, and I recognize that, and I have voted because of that each time in favor, but, this would be almost an 11, what would this be total in a year? Or, last year, the three wages together percent increase?
So in 24, like the mayor said, in 24 we gave 4.5 and then 5, and it's not 9.5, it's 4.5, and then on top of that was 5. And then this year would be 5. But I also, to support what the mayor said too, these are the only years that we gave those kind of general wage increases. And I have the history here, and we go all the way back. I came here into FY13. We gave 1.6%, 2% in 14, 3% in 15, 3 in 16, 2 in 17, 1.5 in 18, 2.5 in 19, 3 in 20, 0 in 21, and then we gave them 3% at the end of 21 because of COVID, and 2.5% in 22, nothing in 23 because we had a pay plan adjustment, and then we had the 24 with the 4.5 and then the 5 because we couldn't keep our employees.
But the pay plan adjustment was an increase as well.
For some, not for all.
Right. So, I mean, I'd asked this in the past about changing how we do it into a annual cost of living allowance, so we didn't necessarily, like, we would just do a standard cost of living, and then we would, for instance, police or the areas that we're not able to hire, we would do a specific pay increase or review. I think then we don't fall back in the hole like we continue to do.
Our general wage increase is what a lot of places call cost of living. We
But it's
handle
not
it
a
the same way.
guarantee. I'd love to see
Right,
it as a guarantee written, where we'd have to vote no. Rather, it would take place unless we as a body voted against it.
All right, any more comment or question regarding this amendment? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All members, please cast your vote. It's coming. There you go. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
5 yes, 8 no, 0 abstain.
Amendment fails. Anything else, Councilperson McLaughlin?
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Any more amendments? Seeing no amendments, any discussion on Ordinance 106? Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
My legal statement. At the advice of counsel, I publicly state that my husband is a city employee and that when I vote for the budget, it will be what I believe is the best interest of the city as a whole and not my family in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comment or question? Seeing none, Councilperson Red, you're recognized.
Just real quick, I know that there was a lot of numbers that was thrown around. Excuse my voice. I think I'm losing my voice. But if you take an average house or a modest house, and let's say you pay $1,800 a year in taxes, both city and county together, at the end of the year, you'd pay $54,000. And over 30 years, if you were to take this amount of money and you put that in the S&P 500 and you'd get an average of 8 or 9%, you would have $246,000. People say, or we say, many of us, that, oh, it's just $1 here or $1 there. That's the cost of the taxes that you will pay over a 30-year period. But the thing is, unlike what you pay to the bank, you still haven't paid that off. At the end of 30 years, you can be 65 or 70 years old, and you're still paying for that. You know, it's funny that our forefathers, they went to war against England over a 2% tax over a breakfast beverage, tea. And today, in the state of Tennessee, we work till April the 8th to pay all of our taxes. That's how long that we go for, till April the 8th. It's always, oh, it's just $1 here, $1 there. But let me tell you, you take the income tax that you pay the little tax on your phone, you pay your property tax, and you add all of these up. We're paying now a third of our income. We work almost 4 months a year to pay our taxes. And I'm not just beating up on it. I'm just saying in general, something is wrong whenever our money is confiscated like that. And at the end of 30 years, and it was worth $246,000. And unlike the banks even give you the deed, but you got to keep on paying. And you know, this number is there that you pay, assuming that there was never a tax increase from today. It never increases again. Let's say you buy a house, you're a young couple starting out, you pay $1,800 a year to the city and the county, and if that's all you ever pay for the next 30 years, that's what you lost, $246,000. And you're after 30 years, you're still paying. Something's wrong somewhere. And I'm not just beating up on us. I'm just saying something's wrong if you work till into April. And one council member wisely said, you know, well, we all pay taxes. But I think we need to take a look going ahead in the future, which I won't be here, but for the rest of you that will be, maybe to think about that. Thanks, Mayor.
Councilperson Marquis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so real quick, just to kind of explain a little bit of my whole schizophrenic voting last week, I was a little confused as to what the ramifications were on the vote with the budget, because I didn't want the budget to fail and then we would default to the current rate of $1.23, which would have been like a 40% increase on people, and that would have been even more horrific than what we're discussing now. But I also did want to find cuts from the 88 cent, and I mean, Miss Maddox can tell you, I've been bugging her for like days now. I thought I had a plan in one area, that didn't go through. I thought I had it in another area. I admittedly try to leverage Steve Warren funds with departments to try to see if we can figure out different projects to do, but that didn't work either. So it was a difficult decision trying to understand where the rate would be, with how the votes would go down. Because again, ultimately I didn't want 123, but I do want us to be able to find something somewhere, because ultimately, maybe it may not be a lot for the homeowners, because the average, according to our presentation, was like $1 and some change, but it will be for the renters, because when leases are up, they don't just go up $7 and stuff like that. They go up 25, 50, $100 a piece, and they make the difference there with the when they renew leases and any increases in property taxes that are done. So that, I think maybe, just putting it out there for next year, we could restructure the way that we look at the budget, and as the council as a whole could probably sit with the department head, not in the form of the committee, because I don't think that the committee would have achieved what I'm thinking of. I think that if we could sit with the department heads in a public meeting, go line by line, go through that and make the actual changes, if we could find them as a whole, it would have been easier than maybe me by myself looking for something, is kind of what I would have thought, or other council members by themselves looking for cuts as well. That's kind of all I had to say. Thank you.
Councilman McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the council members from 5 and 8 for trying to find a way to save the tax increase. I wish that we all had a brilliant idea that would work, but I do appreciate your efforts, and I wanted to thank you for that. And I do appreciate what the previous speaker said about us trying to come up with some kind of plan. I mean, the cost of everything is going to go up. I don't ever see it going back down. And while the cost of gas and groceries and everything is going up, so is the cost of asphalt and replacement vehicles and required materials for our employees. So anyway, I want to thank you all for trying. And like I said last week, even though my amendment didn't pass, I don't have anything else to do but vote for this budget because of how lean it is. So, thank you.
Councilperson Little, you're recognized on the ordinance.
Thank you. I do thank all the departments and the council members that brought forth their amendments and everything, and all the hard work goes into a budget. Mayor, thank you for everything you've done for this budget. And as of right now, if it passes, then with our new tax rate, it'd be about 19% increase. And I just ask that if it does go through and pass, that we definitely within this next coming year look at our employee salaries and somehow negate some of that hurt they're going to be experiencing from the cost of living in Clarksville.
Thank you. Any more comment or question? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? We're voting on ordinance 106. We're voting on the budget. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
7 yes, 6 no, 0 abstain.
Budget passes. We're now, next item is consent agenda item A, ordinance 108, 2023-24, second reading ordinance amending Title IV Building, Utility, and Housing Codes, Chapter 2 Building Code, Section 4-203, building permit fees of the city code relative to building permits. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion been made and properly seconded. Any comment or question? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All members, please cast your vote. Every member voted. Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
12 yes, 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain.
The consent agenda item is adopted. We're now ready for public comments. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Seeing none, hearing none, the purpose for which this special session of the Clarksville City Council having been accomplished, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Without objection, we're adjourned.